Hi and hello everybody, it's Fern. Welcome back to another planty video. So today we're going to be talking all about low light plants, or more specifically the plants that I am intentionally growing in low light because I've found that they either prefer that or that I prefer that to get them to grow in a certain way, which we will talk more about. Now, low light is a very controversial term in the houseplant world because plant nurseries love to just slap the term low light on almost any tropical plant you can find at the big box store, when the reality is that a small fraction of them are actually going to thrive in low light. Maybe they can survive, but they're not necessarily going to be looking their best or doing their best. Although I have some south-facing windows, I live in the Pacific Northwest. It is rainy, gloomy, overcast here for many months out of the year, so I'm all too familiar with getting not a lot of light inside. Now, of course, a lot of my plants are grown with grow lights. I would not be able to have as many plants as I do without grow lights. I do have a whole video going through all of the grow lights I have and my setup, so I will link that down below if you are interested in that. But for today, we're just going to be talking about the plants that I have found to really enjoy low light and that I would recommend for you to try out if you're looking for a low light option. And I want to clarify, low light does not mean no light. Even my plants that I'm going to be talking about today, they are still getting natural light from the window. They're just not getting a ton of light, they're not getting direct light, but they are still getting some light. So just keep that in mind. This is not for no light spaces. That being said, these plants are going to be great options for rooms with a north or east facing window, or if you have a space that is pulled back from a brighter window, or if you have a situation where, say, you have a grow light and then you have plants that are under that grow light and you want to fill in some lower places. I find that these plants work well for that type of styling also. Without further ado, we're going to start with the first one. She actually lives right behind where I'm sitting here on top of my Millsbo wide cabinet. The first plant that we're going to be talking about today. First of all, we're in for a treat because she is in bloom. This is my Ludisia discolor, or commonly called a jewel orchid. Let me set her down. Okay, if she's going to be too hard to show, I will just put B-roll over. She's looking crazy because of all the flowers. But this is a plant with stunning dark foliage, which is another thing actually that I wanted to mention. So often when plants have darker foliage, that means that they are going to do well in lower light. The darker the foliage kind of equals the lower the light, but not always. There's definitely exceptions. There are some dark plants that need light to really bring out that darkness. So that's kind of like a general thing that I keep in mind, but it's not 100%. There's always exceptions to the rule. So I just thought I would mention it. So this jewel orchid has stunning dark velvety foliage. And if the word orchid freaks you out, don't worry, because this is a terrestrial orchid. So she doesn't require the same care as, you know, a regular orchid. So you can just pot this in the same potting mix as the rest of your tropicals and treat it the same way. It is very tolerant. I don't do anything special with this plant, honestly. And as you can see, it's very happy because she is blooming like crazy. And something else that's cool about this plant is that it blooms in the winter time. So it is January right now, and she is really going crazy with the flowers. There's even another one that it's going to be opening up here. Now, when I have her sitting up there, I have her kind of propped up against the books beside her, so it kind of holds up the flowers. But as you can see, she kind of just goes wild if she doesn't have any support. I'm just gonna set her. Oh my gosh, the sun is coming out. This is a rare occurrence. I feel like a vampire. I have not seen the sun in weeks, it feels like. Wow, that is so funny that I'm filming my low light plant video and the sun is coming out. So I actually used to grow this plant on my south-facing window and it wasn't doing too amazing. And then I did some research on the care for it and I found out that they actually prefer lower light. So that's when I pulled it back from the window and it's just been flourishing ever since I did that. The leaves are so dark. It's not a super fast grower, but I kind of like that about it because I mean, as you can tell, it's a little bit of an unruly plant. It trails, but not in a like nice draping kind of way. Like with the next one we'll see, but in kind of just a crazy crawling out in different directions sort of way. So I'm okay with the slower growth habit and absolutely love flowering plants. So for me to have a stunning dark foliage plant that doesn't need to be taking up space right in my window and flowers in the winter time, that is like this is a perfect plant. I cannot recommend it enough. And like I said, it's not fussy at all. It's super easy care. I actually haven't even looked at the pot in a super long time. Let's pull it out. Oh, she's sitting in water. See, that's how tolerant this plant is. It does not even mind my neglect, but I am gonna dump that water out. Okay, let's go to the sink. At certain times of the year, the Ludisia discolor will get some direct sun. Like, it would get a little bit today. Later, if it's still sunny later in the day when the sun moves over, it would get some direct sun, but it's not very often, and it's only in certain times of year, usually just the fall and the spring. And again, it's pulled back from the window, so it's not like it's getting scorched right on the windowsill. During the summer, the sun does not come very far into the house, so in a spot like this, it wouldn't be getting any direct sun. It's more than happy with just kind of ambient indirect light, and yeah, I think it really prefers that rather than being in a super bright light intensive spot. I really appreciate plants that prefer lower light in my collection because so many of them don't. So many of them need to be crammed around the windows and crammed around the grow lights, so it's a relief, honestly, when plants don't need that. Okay, next, I've just pulled this one down from beside the jewel orchid. They both live on top of this cabinet. This is my stunning Hoya polyneura. Oh my goodness, has it ever grown in the past like 6 months? It is crazy how full this pot is now. So Hoya polyneura is fairly well known for being a Hoya that doesn't like super high light. The leaves will bleach. I prefer to grow mine obviously in this indirect light spot because I don't want light damage. I want these nice, dark, lush looking leaves. It's just, oh, it's so stunning, and I feel like I've cracked the code on this. I have it in the perfect spot. It's just so happy there. Same situation, this rarely gets any sunlight. It's mostly just ambient dark light, and ironically, I'm filming this on an unusually bright day. Normally it is, I mean, if you watch my channel, then you know, normally it's raining, dark, gloomy at this time of year, so any type of bright light or sunlight coming in like this is not super common through fall to spring, basically. But yeah, the polyneura is a thinner leaved Hoya. It's known for needing less light. I think that this would be a great plant for a north facing window, and it's also known for being a little bit more thirsty. So yeah, kind of different than a lot of other plants, but it's been super happy since I've been doing a better job at meeting both of those needs. And yeah, it's just looking stunning. I feel like this is just, it's such an amazing Hoya. I highly recommend, especially if you're looking for a Hoya for a lower light spot. This is just the regular green one. I do have the outer variegated one as well, and I have the silver one, but I'm trying to grow the silver one in a bit higher of light. I'm kind of experimenting with that. And the outer variegated one, I haven't really grown for long enough or in enough different conditions to recommend either of those as a low light plant. All the plants that I'm going to be talking about in today's video are plants that are like tried and true. In my experience, they've done well in lower light. For example, the polyneura, I've had this plant for like 5 years now, so I'm very familiar with it. But yeah, I feel like this is just such a fantastic option. Also, for some plants, especially Hoya, you will get different results depending on the type of light and how much light you offer the plant. So for example, if you're after blooms, you would want to try to give that Hoya as much light as it could handle. But if you're after nice dark foliage or larger leaves, then you can give them less light and grow them in a lower light location. I will show you another Hoya that's a good example for this. So this is one of my Hoya mathildes, and she is grown in a very minimal light location. She grows on the end of my calyx shelf that is on the opposite side of the window, so she's completely facing to the inside of my house. She probably gets the lowest light out of maybe my entire plant collection, not a lot at all. And I'm purposely growing her there because I love the way she looks draping off the side of that cabinet, and I'm okay with her not blooming and she still grows there. Like, she still does fine, but the thing that I'm sacrificing is blooms. She's probably not going to flower in such a minimal light location, but the nice thing about growing Hoya or some Hoya in lower light is that you get nice dark leaves, and in the case of the Hoya mathilde, she tends to give out rounder leaves in lower light also. If you grow this in highlight, the leaves can get a little bit more elongated and a little larger, but I really love the look of these just like dark, more round leaves. So I'm super happy to grow her in that location. It works for me, it works for her. So yeah, it's kind of one of those plants where you have the option to do different things and then you will potentially get a different result. But she does fine in that spot. I'm so glad that she is happy there and grows there, because it just makes the shelf look so much nicer in my opinion. So yeah, this is another good option. A lot of Hoya, honestly, like same with the Carnosa, you can grow them in higher or you can give them lower light and they'll give you darker, larger leaves. But again, you're not as likely to get blooms with lower light. So it just depends what you're after. So yeah, I know that Hoya in general are not and should not be marketed as low light plants, but they can be an option. So I thought I would mention it because I do grow some of mine in low light. This is not one that necessarily prefers low light, but you can get away with it. And the polyneura is one that I would say actually prefers and thrives in lower light. Okay, so next I do have a couple of philodendron that I thought I would mention on my list. So this is my philodendron El Guapo, formerly known as SP Silver or SP Columbia. Typically a crawling plant, but I am trying to train mine to climb, which is why it has the moss pole. Now I've had this plant for, did I get this in 2022? Yeah, I think I got this at the beginning of 2022. We are now in the beginning of 2025, so I've had it for 3 years, and it became apparent to me quite immediately that this plant does not like a lot of light, which again, I love, especially to find a philodendron that really thrives in lower lights. So I found that growing this plant in higher light or under a grow light was really causing a lot of bleaching to the leaves. The leaves were just turning a really light green, and it was not a look that I wanted for this plant, because I specifically, part of the reason that I was obsessed with this plant is because I love the kind of silvery blue tone to the foliage, and too much light was just completely removing that. So I started growing it in lower light and natural light. I no longer supplement this plant with grow lights. It's kind of tucked away in a dark spot between two of my windows. So yeah, it doesn't get much light at all, but honestly, it still seems happy. And this plant will even size up. It will give you those more mature looking leaves. I know that this is not huge right now, but I used to have a really large version of this, which some of you may remember. I'll put it on the screen. But yeah, this grew really large, and even not getting a ton of light, it was still able to do that. So that just goes to show that this plant really thrives and prefers being in a little bit of a lower light situation. So yeah, I love this plant. I'm so glad that it is on its comeback right now. It's been growing back from a wet stick for quite a while now. We actually have a new leaf coming in there, which is lovely to see. So yeah, hopefully this one will be in its former glory or close to that sometime soon. Maybe this year I'll be able to size it up nicely like that. This is definitely one of my favorite lower light plants, and I love that it's a philodendron. I love to be able to recommend a couple of philodendron options because I find that most of them do need quite a bit of light. So yeah, it's just really nice to have a lower light option. And then another philodendron that I wanted to mention that I don't actually have here with me because I no longer have mine, which is kind of sad, and I am fighting the urge to replace it. I may replace it one day, but we'll see. It is Philodendron gloriosum. That plant did amazing growing in lower light. Again, I found in my experience, it was a philodendron that really preferred a bit of a indirect ambient lighting situation rather than being blasted with a grow light or something, especially if you want to keep it nice and dark. I do have a Philodendron glorious, which is a hybrid of the gloriosum right now, so that's kind of why I'm undecided of whether I want to bring the gloriosum back into my collection, because I feel like the glorious kind of fills that void and that need, but yeah, the Gloriosum is just spectacular. I love them so much. So for now, I just kind of admire them in other people's collections, but I think that it is a really great option, especially if you're looking for a nice heart-shaped velvety leaf plant for a more indirect light spot. Yeah, they are stunning. Okay, where are we on my list? I guess I'll go ahead and mention the one other plant that's on my list that I don't actually have with me right now because mine croaked on me, not due to lighting situation, but due to something else, I guess. That is the Calathea warscewiczii. These things hate light, like hate it. They will completely, like when the sun would come out and hit her, she used to live up here as well, she would literally, her leaves would just like curl up and she would look awful because she could not stand the sun. So yeah, that plant most definitely, and I think a lot of Calathea are the same. I actually do I not have any Calathea in my collection right now? I don't think I do. That's kind of crazy. I really do want to replace my Calathea warscewiczii. I hope to be doing that this year. But yeah, she definitely low indirect light for that plant. She hated the sun. So if you're looking for, and that's also a nice dark velvety plant too. Definitely a little bit more finicky than the Gloriosum, but still, I had to put it in this video because she despises the sun. Okay, next I have a little begonia option for you here. This is, so most of my begonias, I try to give decent light, but this one I intentionally grow in lower light because that gives a nicer color, and she's happy to grow in lower light. So this is Begonia Rex pavonina, and this begonia is actually really unique because it has an adaptation that allows the leaves to capture more light with this like iridescent kind of, I'll probably have to insert a video, but it has like a blue iridescence to it, and that is something that it uses to capture more light. Yeah, it's probably too bright here to see it, but gosh, this is such a cool begonia, you guys. I have it growing in the bottom of my calyx shelf, so it's kind of partially covered and doesn't get a ton of light, but it still seems to do really well down there. And I think that this is such a neat begonia, especially with that blue color. I love looking at it at night because you can really catch that blue glint to it, or if you like shine a flashlight on it or something, you can also see it. Yeah, it's just a really unique one, and when I got this, a lot of people were commenting telling me to grow it in lower light because it'll look better, so that is what I have been doing, and yeah, it's still going strong. This one's a really great option because it's one of those plants that is going to look better if you put it in lower light versus higher light, similar to the Calathea warscewiczii that we just talked about. Some plants are just a little bit more sensitive to the sun because they are meant to be living on the forest floor. So in the wild, they're completely sheltered by the canopy, by all the other plants, so they're not actually seeing the sun ever. So they don't want to see the sun. Okay, I'm aware that this might be an unhinged take, but some Anthurium I think do really well in lower light, or at least they can handle a variety of different lighting conditions. I grow, especially my larger ones, a lot of them are not getting a lot of light. They're pulled back from windows only because I don't have the space to be, you know, they're too big to go on a windowsill or something like that. So they have kind of been forced to grow in a more ambient light, lower light situation, and they've still been doing well. So I thought I would mention that. One that I've been really surprised by and impressed by is my Anthurium pallidiflorum. So it's on this shelf. It doesn't have any light coming from above it, but it does have these grow lights that it perhaps does get some light from behind it. But still, in general, I feel like this is not getting much light at all. And this is probably one of my most impressive Anthurium that I have, and the leaves are so narrow and dark. It is just an absolute dream. It's actually almost as tall as me now, so I'll back you up. I can't tell if you can see the whole thing, but it's so super tall. Or long, I guess is the word. It is just crazy, crazy. And I never would have thought that it could grow like this, getting so little light, but it's been doing great. It is perhaps now benefiting from this grow light that I've installed here a little bit. I mean, it's pretty far, but it might be getting a little bit of light from there, but that's new. So this plant has been grown without that light being there. It is mostly just getting like indirect light from the windows that are way across the room from it. And then another Anthurium that I've been growing just in natural light, pulled back from the window, is my Lux hybrid, which doesn't seem to mind either. I've been able to maintain this stunning dark color as well. I was finding that this plant was getting bleached when I had it under a grow light, and since I've moved it over here, it's been staying super dark and beautiful. So yeah, that's another Anthurium that has done really well for me in just indirect natural light. I do have a couple of Anthurium down here in the calyx shelf as well. This is a Minahasa, and this is a silver, or yeah, Doriaki silver red crystallinum hybrid. It's just popped out a new leaf actually. So yeah, again, I think that Anthurium is kind of one of those genus that you can grow in different types of lighting conditions and perhaps get different results. Some of them might really require a lot of light, and some of them might be okay with lower light. So I just thought I would share a couple of them that I've been growing in relatively low light that have been doing okay. This is a monumental moment. This plant is finally getting its time to shine on my channel. This is my boyfriend's plant. I'm the one who waters it, but that's pretty much all I do. It's probably way overdue for a repot. It's super dusty, which goes to show that it can handle neglect. This is a cast iron plant, and it's called that because they're very tough. They can withstand a variety of different conditions, but honestly, it's kind of a vibe. Like, she's pretty, and I don't know why I don't put more effort into caring for this one. I think I just fall into that trap of when a plant is super hardy, you don't really have to do much for them and they will just be fine and survive. So then I just end up not doing anything to them and neglecting them a little bit, but it's still doing fine. Maybe this spring I will repot it. Oh my gosh, it has baby leaves coming in. That's so cutie. But yeah, I thought this one would be another perfect candidate to mention. This is actually I think it's called Milky Way. It has these like spots on it. Actually a really pretty plant. I don't know why I don't appreciate this one more. I should, because I actually do really like it. But this lives in an east-facing window that is almost entirely obstructed by big cedar trees, so it doesn't really get any indirect light or anything like that. This would also do fine in a north-facing window. It would do fine probably pulled way back from a window, like in the middle of a room. Yeah, very tolerant, easygoing plant. So that is another option that I just had to mention in this video. Okay, one more Hoya. This one needs to be mentioned because I had the unfortunate experience of burning this plant to a crisp because I put it too close to a grow light. So I need to spread the word that she prefers lower light. When that happened, I was like, what the heck? Because usually Hoya can tolerate, like, you know, quite a bit of light, but this one, the leaves got completely burned, so it's looking kind of crazy because I had to cut it up and take propagations and blah. This is Hoya leucantha. Did I say that yet? They're very pretty Hoyas, despite how crazy mine is looking right now. Let's take a look. It can get beautiful, like orangey new growth on it, and it has this really cool growth habit. This would be an amazing candidate for a low light spot because it really can't handle light. This is one that kind of needs to be in lower light. I didn't know that until after I burned that, so I kind of learned the hard way, but when I looked it up, everything was saying cannot handle a lot of light, and I was like, okay, got it. So yeah, definitely one to consider. I'll put some photos on the screen so you can see a better specimen. I'm not really sure what my plan is here. Like, am I just gonna wait until this fills out, or should I? Because I have just these crazy, the vine is like empty and then there's some leaves down in the middle of it and then it vines out again. So I don't know if I'm just gonna wait it out and then eventually this will become a nice lush bushy pot, or if I should chop this and propagate, root them up and then stick the propagations back in. I don't really know. Or should I put this on a trellis and that will maybe make it look a little bit tidier? cast your votes in the comments because I'm not really sure what I'm doing with this one. So that's it. That's all of the plants that I wanted to share with you. I really just wanted to focus on the ones that I have personally had a good experience with growing in low light, because I know that there's a lot of plants that are maybe marketed as or like can do okay in low light, but I really wanted to focus on the ones that I've personally seen thrive in lower light. So I hope that that was helpful and maybe gave you some ideas. Also, I would love to hear in the comments down below any plants that you have found grow really well in low light that I didn't mention in this video. It's always nice to be able to kind of help each other out and have a conversation, and yeah, I would love to hear even more low light options. Like I said, I love a plant that thrives in a lower light setting. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to chatting with you in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!